Hey, everybody. Well, again, thanks for joining. We're going to have hopefully a little bit of fun this week or this afternoon, but it's going to really be up to you because I don't know about you. I hate speaking to myself for an hour. So I'm hoping we can get some back and forth and have a great conversation about getting a life. You know, life insurance sales made easy. You see here on this slide, it says the Morning Thrive. The Morning Thrive is an awesome program we put on in the Central region once a week, or I should say every other Wednesday, each and every other Wednesday in the Central region that everyone is invited for. And we pick a new topic on a sales program, a sales system, how to close a sale, all that kind of great stuff. And we try to do a deep dive on it every other Wednesday. And the opposite Wednesday, I see Kel on here, Kel Smalley, who is a manager in the Kansas and Missouri area. He does Big App Cash, which is an awesome, awesome, awesome program that goes a deep dive on FIA. And it's really a FIA program for you, by your peers, that type of deal. And if you're not jumping on that, it's 8 a.m. Central Time. I know it's tough for a lot of folks to do that if you're on the West Coast, maybe starting your day on the East Coast. But just know you're always invited to any program the Central region has going on when it comes to education. So these are a slide deck that I've borrowed. Yes.
Real quick, if I could just plug it.
Plug it, man.
A lot of people in the first quarter of this year that showed up to Big App Cash never written a FIA, and now they're at the top of the pack for the most FIA written for the year, and they have made a lot of Big App Cash for sure. So yes, please do come, learn from your peers, and we'll get some updates from Gary as well.
And we're not saying it's the only reason they've written FIA this year, but about 99.9% reason probably, right, Kel?
Yeah, I mean, we could round up.
I love it. So we're going to borrow today's educational training from one of those Wednesday calls that we've had. And so stick with me real quick. The outline for today, just so you know, I want you to participate. I'm going to keep us on track, but there'll be time for pauses. There'll be time for questions. There'll be time for your 2 cents. The best salespeople in the world are not me. They're not Kale. They're not Bonnie. They're not Deanna. They're not some of the folks that are on here. It's when all of us are using our mastermind alliance to get out there and build some really good constructive feedback, some good ideas, some praise, all that kind of great stuff. We're going to conclude the major type training at about 4:30. I'm going to try to wrap it up there. And then when that training ends, we're going to leave an open forum. So we can talk about life insurance sales. We can talk about what you're seeing, what you're doing, all that kind of great stuff. And the panel of experts are going to hang back and we're going to talk and answer your questions to the best of our ability. Now, who's the panel of experts? That is you. So we'd love for you to pitch in and give your expertise, whether it's something that you've seen in the AMBA field, maybe it's something that you've seen in previous careers, but there's something that you're doing so well that the rest of us aren't. I hope you get to share that as well. And then we'll also leave some time for any other kind of AMBA questions that you may have as well. So if you've ever been on a meeting with me, we always start with good news. Now, what is good news? Good news can be anything, whether it's something in your personal life, whether it's something in your AMBA life, whether it's something big and audacious, or if it's something real tiny and small, like you set an appointment and you're very proud of it. So this is where it's going to get very awkward. I'm going to shut up and not say anything until you speak. But I want to hear, give me some good news from 2, 3 of you about what's going on in your life this week. So I'm going to zip it. Let's hear some good news.
Well, Wes, I have some good news.
Lay it on me, Larry.
I mean, if no one else is going to say anything. I don't even know if they're all on here or not, or how many of them are on here from Team Newman, but Team Newman's already at 100% of plan and just rocking it this week. And have had just a wide variety of great stuff going on. I mean, FIA appointments being set, couple of somebody on my team writing their first Medicare supplements. I mean, all kinds of stuff, like just really great stuff, and lots of memberships this week, and a lot of great momentum with FIA. And I think we even wrote a couple life apps this week, so it's been a great week so far.
There we go, Larry. That's what I like to hear, man. Well, keep it up, and proud of you and your team. High five to you. All right. How about some more good news? Lay it on me. Someone else. Who's got it?
Hey, Wes, it's Chris. I'll give you some really great news.
All right.
The Badgers will not lose and get blown out like we have been getting the last few weeks because we're on a bye this week. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend for Badger fans.
And look, that's great news with as depressed as Chris has been walking around the last 3 weeks. Like you've never seen someone more depressed than the Badger himself. So that's great news. You'll at least have one good week next week. So congrats on that.
Wes, I
How
would like
about,
to share a record we broke.
yeah, do it.
Absolutely. So we had the Missouri Retired Teachers Association convention, and we got the most return cards we've ever received. Yes, Larry Newman was missed at that meeting, but we brought in the big guns. We brought my 4-year-old Mac, and he manned the table, and he helped people fill out cards and passed out cards right before we gave our speech, which was amazing. And, for a 4-year-old, he did amazing. And we got a lot of good feedback on how well mannered he is and how well my wife is parenting him. Definitely had nothing to do with me.
So is the record how great your kid is, or is the record how many return cards brought in by a 4-year-old? What's the record here?
Both were broken. Yes.
That is awesome. And I encourage you, if you have I know you can't bring kids to everything you do here at AMBA, but if you have a shot to bring your son or your daughter, and today is National Daughter's Day, if you didn't know, if you have a shot to bring your kid to work here and there, one, the retirees love it. And two, I think it's super important for your kids to get to see what you do, because what we do is not easy. It's different, but it's not easy. So thanks for everybody sharing that. I encourage you to start every meeting, every part of your day with something positive. And this is the first lesson of today. So whether you're at a speaking conference like Kel was at his association, whether you're at the living room, kitchen table, or in a Zoom call with Mrs. Jones, when I threw out, hey, give me a good news, it's the same thing as you throwing out a question for Mrs. Jones that is very difficult to answer. Just know when you throw a question out and it's silence, most humans cannot handle it more than 7.5 seconds worth of silence. And so if you think about when I asked that question, how awkward it was, I picked up my glass, I took a drink, and then Larry popped right on. One, because he had good news, but two, he wanted to break that silence. So when you're asking Mrs. Jones questions, whether it's about life insurance, whether it's about FIA, don't knee jerk and answer it for them. Give them 7.5 seconds. And after 7.5 seconds, pretty much anyone will answer any questions just to break that silence. So let's get going real quick on the important topic. And just like every time I start a presentation, my PowerPoint has to load for the next slide. So now I'll do some filibustering just for a little bit on that. Kel, how many return cards did you bring from the association?
Too many to count, Wes.
Too many to count is a great, great sign. So today we're going to talk about life insurance. And so I live here in the great state of Louisiana, in the big city of New Orleans.
Whoa. Can we go back to that picture for 1 second?
We will in a second, Larry. I jumped ahead too much. So,
and Wes,
yes, ma'am.
You didn't ask me how many return cards I just came back with.
Well, you didn't speak up with the good news, so
well,
that's on
I
you.
was just driving back from Lincoln, Nebraska to Omaha, and I got 11 return cards out of 17 people in attendance. So I think that's pretty dang good.
That is
a great ratio. Good job, MJ.
And she
hey, Cal, Bob says hi, by the way.
Yeah. And MJ awesome. Didn't even have to bring a 4-year-old kid to goat people into filling out return cards. That's the best part about it, MJ.
Well, let me also share with you that I did bring my kids to work, literally.
A little bit different situation.
Moving on.
Yeah. Hey, so I live in New Orleans, and if you don't know about New Orleans, we've got a festival, we've got a party, we've got a parade going on every day, every week, every weekend. And so it's not uncommon for us to go outside, on any given day and see a banner pulled around by an airplane in the sky. And while you go to the beach and you see something that says, come and eat at Bubba Gump Shrimp, or you go to the Super Bowl and you see something that says, drink Miller Lite, the sign that's been pulled around for the last couple festivals here in New Orleans is cremations, $1,195, and go to this website to get it. So why is that something that is becoming so popular? One, I hate to say it, we know the answer. Baby boomers are getting older, right? More and more people are passing away than in the history of mankind. And as you know, because of what we do for a living, it gets more and more expensive each and every year. And we're going to talk a little bit about why it gets expensive. So here's the picture that Larry wanted me to bring back. This is my first day at FSU back in May of 2004. I was a young 22-year-old. Now I've been in the business for 21 years now. And I can tell you, AMBA has been great to me, and I hope the blessings that AMBA's given me gets imparted to you. But life insurance was a huge part of what I did. And so my history with life insurance, I started working in a state in Colorado that had some limited product availability back then. Life insurance was one of them. And we had an easy issue life insurance program, much like we have today. And so I got to be an expert at it because when you're 21, 22 years old and know nothing about insurance except what you've learned in your class at FSU in Austin, whether you attended virtually or physically, life insurance is something that's easy to grasp onto. So it always blows my mind when we don't sell as much as we should be selling. When I moved into my management career, I took a lot of pride in pushing life insurance because I knew how important it was and how much it saved me and saved my career and saved my bank account when I was brand spanking new. And so my team sold a lot of it as well. And so I took pride that my team was not only our number one life insurance team in the country, but every single year my team beat most regions when the time came that we totaled up how much life insurance we sold back in the day. And then when I became a regional, nothing changed, because if you set yourself on fire, the people around you will set themselves on fire as well. My regions, typically each and every year when we had regional vice presidents and I was in charge of the Louisiana operations, much like what our FMLs are today, my region beat all the other regions combined when it came to life insurance. So I'm a firm believer in it, not just because I know what happens and why we need it, but I also know how easy it is to sell and also how easy it is for our retirees to understand it. So just a quick sidebar here on this training. If you don't know, we've got several different types of life insurance that you can sell: whole life, term life, children's life, index universal life. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what these products are because I'm a firm believer that you can read the brochure yourself. Life insurance is pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. So we're going to talk today about how to sell it. So if you go, I didn't know we had a children's life plan. If you go, I didn't know we have a term life plan, or whatever it may be, I'm going to encourage you to spend some time tonight, tomorrow night, over the course of the weekend. It takes about 20 minutes to read a brochure and understand everything you want to know about it. So read, read, read. That's going to be your best friend out there. But I want to start with some facts and statistics, all that kind of great stuff, just to kind of give us a baseline of what it is that we know. And I'm looking for a volunteer here, and I see, is it, let's see, Donovan? Is that you, man? Yeah. Hey, unmute yourself. I want to ask you a question real quick, all right? Donovan, tell people where you live.
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans. So right down the road from me. So I'm going to ask you a question here. What is the mortality rate of a retired teacher in Louisiana? Do you know?
100%.
100%. And now, funny enough, if you ask enough people that question, and if you look at a retiree in the face and you go, Donovan, when you're in their living room or on their Zoom call and you go, do you know the mortality rate here in Louisiana of a retired teacher? Most of them will either say, I don't know, or they'll go, huh, and they'll throw something out there like 60%, right? Because they just want to make sure they're playing the game with you. Put a little humor in your presentation. Because if you're not putting a little humor in your presentation, why are we going to work? These retirees are sitting at home a lot of times alone. They're not getting as much interaction as you possibly can. And so make sure that you get some interaction with them. Make sure you put a smile on your face, and make sure you ask every retiree that question. If you ask them that question 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, they're going to laugh and smile with you when you ask that question. They're going to get it wrong. And of course you go, no, Mrs. Jones, 100%. In fact, 100% of the people that we meet will die, and they'll get a good chuckle out of that, and you will too. Donovan, let me ask you another question here. When was life insurance first sold? Do you know?
Oh, good question. I'll go 1800s.
This is a tough one. In fact, the oldest form of life insurance was sold by Roman burial clubs at 100 BC. And the reason I bring this up, one, put some humor in your presentation. Make sure that you're entertaining Mrs. Jones. And two, the reason that life insurance should be sold more than anything else that we sell is because humans have done this longer than anything else, and it's super simple for them to understand. Mrs. Jones, you die, your beneficiaries get a check. We've known that since the Romans, and it holds true today. Everything else that we sell has a little more complication to it, right? And so this is one of the things that are super simple. So if we keep it super simple, things will go a little easier. So here's some facts and statistics that go along with it. Donovan, thanks for playing on that, being a good sport. 22% of life insurance owners believe they do not have adequate coverage. This is from data from LIMRA 2025. They deal with the general population. The largest employer in all of your states, just so you know, is the school system. So more people answered to this survey.
You're supposed to not.
That are retired school employees, right? They're retired teachers, that type
I'm
of
on
thing.
a Zoom meeting.
Ooh, Yep, you are on a Zoom meeting. So let's go ahead and mute you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So 22% of folks out there that you're running across believe they do not have adequate life insurance already. When we go a little further, approximately 72% of all participants overestimate the cost of basic life insurance policies, a common misconception year for year. So what that means is the reason they're not asking you about life insurance is because they think it's more expensive than it actually is. So let's break that misconception by actually giving them some rates. And the last statistics here, a record high of 30% of consumers have identified their intentions to buy life insurance in the coming year. 30%, meaning 30% of the people that you saw this week are going to buy life insurance from someone in the next 12 months. Are they going to buy it from you? Or are they going to buy it from Ed McMahon or whoever it is through the mail? I don't think Ed's with us anymore, but you know what I mean. There's always someone out there that's going to get their attention and show them rates. They're just looking for rates out there. So let's talk about the cost. Cremations are going up and up and up and up and up. Like I said, maybe it's the advertisements on the airplanes that we see, but more than likely, the reason cremations are going up is because the cost is lower than an actual burial. So you can see these are average costs. $60,260 is what the average cremation is today. And it's all added up for average funeral services, $500. Use of a funeral home, $420. Urns run from $280 to $5,000. Embalming, $700 to $1,800. Preparation of the body, $250. All that kind of great stuff. It is not a cheap proposition. All right. Also, the cost of a burial. Let's talk about that. $8,755. This goes off of the National Funeral Home Association, an association we do not have. Maybe we need to look into that one. $8,755. And so that comes from everything from the preparation of the body and the casket and the vault and the graves and the headstones and all that kind of great stuff. This is what our folks are faced with each and every day when they pass away. Unfortunately, I've had a brother and a father pass away in the last 24 months, or maybe just a little bit over 24 months. And I can tell you why they say this is the national average. In Louisiana, we paid much, much more than this just to get something that we felt was decent for my father, decent for my brother. So this is average. And you know, and I know, probably when a loved one passes or you pass, average is not going to be good enough. So what will the cost be tomorrow? So the things that I just showed you with the averages, that is if you pass away today. That's if you pass away in 2025. The vast majority of the people that are passing away that you speak with aren't going to pass away in 2025. They're going to pass away in the future. And so when I talk to Mr. and Mrs. Jones about the cost of a funeral, when I talk about the cost of a burial or a headstone, we talk about how much it costs today and how expensive that is compared to when their mom and dad passed away. And then we ask them, like, you know, Mrs. Jones, heaven forbid something happened to you, but if it does, it's probably not happening today. Do you think these costs are going to go up, or do you think they're going to go down for you and your loved ones? And of course, we know the answers to it. And it's crazy how fast things change, because if you just do a quick Google search on the cost of caskets or the cost of urns or the cost of embalming, there's everything from the steel, and then the tariffs on the new tariffs that have been put in for overseas are going to make these things go up. I have a friend that just got ordered a soccer jersey from a team overseas, and when the UPS guy showed up at his house to deliver, it was a birthday present for him, for his wife. The UPS guy said he couldn't give him the jersey until he wrote him a check for $80 to pay the tariff on it. That's on a soccer jersey. So what's going to happen when we need an urn for mom or dad, when we need embalming for mom or dad, when we need a headstone for mom or dad? Inflation is bad enough. Add some tariffs on top of that. Add the cost of less services because more people are passing away. You're crazy if you think this isn't going to outprice some folks. So when we say the average funeral cost is $8,600, that is today, and I can guarantee you it's not going to slightly go up in the next 24, 72 months. It's going to go up like a rocket ship, just like everything else that we do. And then we need to know some mortality rates. And so this is a mortality table. If you haven't seen one of these before, it tells you if you're 45 years old, like I turned about 30 days ago or so, that I've got an expected life of 32.3 years, which I'm going to try to beat that number, but that's what the mortality table says, right? And so the best I'm going to do when I talk to someone that's 45 like Wes and go, hey, if you think the price is high now, what do you think it's going to be in 32.3? We better hope we've got this whole upload you to the cloud situation and we live forever, because if not, no one's going to be able to afford a funeral at that point. So look at this, look at these mortality tables, have these things available for you. The Google is your greatest friend. You can kind of figure those things out. 66% of all Americans are concerned about their family's finances if they were to pass away. So we already know 30% of folks think that, they need to buy life insurance in the next 12 months. We already know that 70% think they're already outpriced of life insurance, but we have to inform them that they're not. And now we know that 66% of Americans are concerned that their family finances are in jeopardy if they pass away. So this is a perfect storm, and I hate to use the word perfect storm because it sounds positive. It's a super negative storm for our consumers, but it's a positive storm for our folks that are going into the homes virtually and physically to help our retirees out, because they're dying to have this conversation with people. But death is something that is not fun to talk about. Death is something that is not easy to bring up. Death is something that we like to push in the closet and hope it never happens. But just know this is what the consumer that you're sitting down with is thinking about all the time, and thinking that they want to fix, but unfortunately no one's willing to have the conversation with them. So make sure that you are willing to have that conversation. Probate. This is one of the things that I knew a little bit about, but until I experienced it the last couple of years with my dad, who did have a sizable estate that we had to work with, and my brother, who didn't have a sizable estate, how much of a pain in the butt and how expensive this was. So if you don't know about probate, let me inform you a little bit so that you know what your retirees are getting into and what you're going to get into if you don't have this taken care of away. This is how probate works. When someone passes away, we got to prepare and file a petition for probate. That's going to take 1 to 4 months. Number 2, you have to give all the creditors notice. So if there's a mortgage that needs to be paid, if there's student loans that need to be paid, if there's anything out there, notices have to be given to the creditors. That takes 3 to 6 months for that all to happen. Then you got to pay down the debts and the fees that that person had. Even if they had money like my father, there was a little loan on a bass boat here. There was a Home Depot credit card there, all that kind of great stuff. 6 to 12 months the money was tied up for those type of things too. They had to take an inventory of assets, especially if they're sons and daughters and wives and all that kind of great stuff, to get an understanding of how things are going to be split, all that good stuff. That takes 6 to 12 months. We got to distribute the assets as the will lays out. That's 9 to 18 months, because sometimes money's tied up in things that's not easily available. Number 6, you have to close the assets. That's going to take 9 to 24 months. And last but not least, whatever's over, we still have to pay the lawyer's bill. And so it takes a little while. And if you look at your state, depending, and I'll scroll real slow, this is the average probate times for your states. So if you're in Alabama, someone passes away, it's going to take 6 to 12 months. This is, again, average. Louisiana, 6 to 12 months. Average, right? North Carolina, 6 to 12 months. Mississippi, 6 to 12 months. Average. If you look in New York, 12 to 24 months. Average. Massachusetts, 12 to 24 months. Washington, 6 to 12 months. Average. So note that the durations of these average can vary also based on the complexity of the estate. If there's some disputes from sons or daughters or moms or stepmoms or dads, all that kind of great stuff. And of course, specific state laws. So I'm telling you this because even if you have a retiree, even if you have you that are in a very good situation to be able to pay your final expenses, it's not going to happen as quick as you would like it to be. And the son and daughter that that client loves is going to have to pay for it out of their pocket first and hope they get reimbursed in it in 6 to 12 months. And Mrs. Jones, is that what you want your kids to think about when they're trying to plan your funeral? Is this what you want your grandkids to have to worry about when they're trying to grieve you? And that's why most people have life insurance, because yes, you have $10,000 to take care of a funeral if something happens to you today. Yes, you have 20 grand to take care of a funeral if something happens to you tomorrow. But I don't care how much money you have. When the state's got you all tied up in probate, it has to be paid out of somebody's pocket right then and there. And that's why people have life insurance, Mrs. Jones. Life insurance does not prevent you from passing away. It's your last act of I love you to your grandkids. It's that last act of I love you to your wife. It's the last act of care and compassion to your son and daughter. When the time comes, this is your last chance to be a dad and say, I'm going to hug you one last time. Don't worry about this. You're taken care of. And that's the conversation I'm having. You got plenty of money, Mrs. Jones. You wouldn't think you need this, but unfortunately, we see it every day that our retirees' estates are tied up and you can't do anything about it. So let's talk about how life insurance worked, just in case you didn't know. Yes, the Romans had it back in 100 BC, all that kind of great stuff. So how does life insurance work? 1, you die. 2, you get money. That's it. Super easy, right? Someone dies, a beneficiary gets money. As easy as it can possibly be. It's been the same since 100 BC. Everybody knows it. If you go walk on the street and knock on 100 doors and go, hey, how does life insurance work? 100% of those people are going to say, somebody dies, somebody gets money. Now, go walk on it and knock on 100 doors and go, can you tell me how short-term care works? Can you tell me how a MASA plan works? Can you tell me how a dental plan works? And it's going to be something that's very confusing sometimes. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a network that da-da-da-da. Life insurance should be sold like crazy just because everyone you talk to already knows how it works. So let's talk about how it works when there is no life insurance. Remember, super easy when you have life insurance. Someone passes away, the beneficiary gets a check, right? How does it work when you don't have life insurance? Well, same thing. Someone passes away, right? And then there's a family that's going to grieve because someone passed away. While that family is grieving, they're going to pull money out of their own pockets to pay for the funeral, to pay for the church, to pay for the services, to pay for all that kind of great stuff. And once we've gotten that taken care of, the family that's still grieving, they're going to take more money out of their pocket to pay for the lawyers, to pay for the judge, to pay for the trust, to pay for the estate, to pay for the taxes, to pay for all this kind of great stuff. And once they get that taken care of as well, then we get into the probate portion. And when the probate portion is over with and the funeral's money's been taken out and the lawyer and the judge and all that kind of money taken back, there is some change left over. And then we pay the family 12 months later, 24 months later. So let me ask you, Mrs. Jones, which one of these is easier? Someone passes away and it pays a beneficiary, 1 step, 2 step, or what happens when there's no life insurance, no matter how much money you have on earth? You can be Bill Gates, you can be Warren Buffett, or you can be Wes Breeden. There's going to be about 15 steps in there that's going to happen before you get that money. Again, this is your last hug to your kids. This is your last hug to your beneficiary. But, Wes, I get something from the schools. How many of you guys have heard that? I hear it all the time, right? I get something from the schools. Okay, let's talk about it, Mrs. Jones. From the school system, you typically lose any type of life coverage you had when you retired. Well, I know I get something from my pension. Sure you do, Mrs. Jones. And the way it works, it's not a life insurance benefit usually. It's a death benefit, which means it's an extra payment out of your pension. It's taxable, meaning that you're not going to get 100% of whatever it is that they tell you it would be. And it's going to get tied up in probate. And it usually reduces when you're 70, 75. Now, I live in Louisiana, so I know perfectly well what a retired teacher in Louisiana gets and what they don't get. If you live in Michigan, if you live in California, if you live in Nevada, if you live in Tennessee, you should know the exact same things too. So when Mrs. Jones says, I get something from the school, I know exactly what the answer is because I know better than them. When they say I get something, that's not specific. That means they don't know. So let me inform you, Mrs. Jones. The reason I have this job is because your association knows that you have this gap. Well, I get something from the pension. Let me tell you exactly what you get from the pension here in Louisiana. So if you can't answer those questions because your state has something very similar to that, if you can't answer that system, it's time to have a conversation with your FML to go, I talked to Wes on this call, and he says that we've got to do something about this. Tell me what exactly happens in Mississippi. Tell me what exactly happens in Texas. And so when Mrs. Jones says, I think I have this taken care of, you can go, you don't have this taken care of. Let me tell you, because I'm the expert, exactly what's going on here. So how do we sell this stuff? That's what I said we were going to get to. It only took me 31 minutes. So let's talk about it. I'm a big fan of question-based selling. And so when I'm going into my presentation, when we're talking about the life insurance, there's some simple, easy questions I ask to get Mr. and Mrs. Jones thinking about and understanding the problem. Mrs. Jones, have you ever had anyone close to you pass away, and has it been recently? And the answer is going to be yes for 100% of these folks. Yes, I have. And it may not have been recent. If you ask, when was it? And they say 20 years ago. ask them, if you don't mind me asking, how much did that cost back then? Because if you don't know, we as humans love telling big fish stories. So when I ask them an open-ended question about that, when it comes to money, they're going to brag on how much it was. Man, it cost us an arm and a leg. It was $20,000 back in 1980. And when they give me those whopper fish stories, I am going to go, if you think it cost that much back in 1980, how much do you think it's going to cost in 2025? How much do you think it's going to cost in 2035? And that's why your association put this together. Mrs. Jones, were you involved in planning the funeral? I want to hear some horror stories about how difficult it was and the cost of caskets. They'll tell you that. And the cost of the funeral service and how they get you by the arm and they twist it and you have no choice. How much did it all cost, Mrs. Jones? How much do you think it's going to cost now? Have you thought about what you want when you pass away? Well, I know how much it's going to cost when they put my mom and dad in the ground, so I just want a pine box and a hole. Great. What do you think your kids are going to do? Are they going to abide by that? Or are they going to want to give you the same thing? Have you shared that information of what you wanted with your loved ones? Who do you have your insurance through? This is a super important question, and we'll come back to this in a second. Who do you have your life insurance through? And about half of them are going to say, I think I have something from the school. I think I have something from the pension system. And you'll be the one that unfortunately has to be the bearer of bad news that they don't have what they think they have. And the other half of them are going to say, oh, I have something through Farm Bureau. I have something through Allstate. I have something through XYZ Life, whatever it may be. And then the question is, great. Let's take a look at it so that you can see exactly what you have. Part of my job as your benefit advisor is to review this because unfortunately, and what I'm about to tell you is a very, very true story, once a year we review with my mom what she has. It's a Thanksgiving tradition at our house. And a few years ago, my mom, who is a retired teacher, she was telling me about the life insurance that she had. I said, I don't remember you having life insurance through someone else. And I said, go get it. So she grabbed the insurance tub. She came and sat down with me, the guy that's been selling her life insurance and all the type of life insurance or insurance that she's had since I got that insurance license back when that picture was taken. And she confidently pulls out the life insurance and she places it in front of me and she says, I've got it taken care of. And I looked her dead in the eye and said, this is a refrigerator warranty. That's what most of your retirees that you're working with actually has. It's not what they think. It's a rider on something crazy that this has to happen and that has to happen in order for this to pay out. It's a life insurance policy offer that they actually never filled the application out for. It's all this crazy stuff because most people aren't prepared for what's coming next. And when I see that they don't have that policy that they think they had, or when I see that they have a policy that's limited in some way, I'm going to ask them, did you not get approved for life insurance when you were looking to this? Mrs. Jones, how old are you again? And I'm asking that question that way because I want them to understand now we have a sense of urgency. You're 65 and you haven't had someone from your association sit down with you yet about the life insurance program? Holy cow, I'm glad I'm here. Wow, I don't know how you fell through the cracks, Mrs. Jones, but I apologize. I feel like this is on me. So I'm going to get that to you today because if you are my mom, we've got a sense of urgency now. I'm telling them what's going on. I'm telling them about the sense of urgency for it. Life insurance has two keys when you're going to go sell it, okay? And this is going to sound like the dumbest thing I'm ever going to tell you, but what I'm going to tell you right now sold 99.9% of the life insurance all the people that have ever worked with me has encompassed. And I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to shake your head, and you're going to go, that's insane. But you're making it way too hard, way too hard. So let's talk about the two keys. One, you have to ask. You have to ask. And I'm pointing my finger at you all because there's so many missed opportunities we have here at AMBA just because we don't bring it up, right? I talk with Joe on a daily basis about FIA, and he's like, why can't we get more people to ask? And I know it's a little based in fear. I know it's a little based in lack of knowledge. And I know we're going to get over that. But remember, back to the original part of this presentation, everyone you talk to, including my 11-year-old daughter who's in this room right here, knows how life insurance works. You pass away, a beneficiary gets it. So this isn't one of those things you should fear. This is one of those things you should run to. And the reason we're not asking is because in our mind we go, everybody already has life insurance, but the truth is everybody already has refrigerator warranties. That's the truth. And so you have to ask each and every single time, Who do you have your life insurance through? When Mrs. Jones says, I've gotten this taken care of, after I ask, I go, well, great. Who is it through? Part of my job as your benefit advisor is to make sure that you have what you think you have, Mrs. Jones. So I'll give you a minute. Go grab it. It's crazy how many of our retirees think they have one thing and they have something else. This is a free review. No questions asked. I'm just going to get this ready so that you know and that your kids know as well. So, little sidebar on this, talking about why we won't ask, right? Talked about that a little bit. When you go to a lawyer, they're going to ask all kinds of questions to make sure that your will is correct. When you go to the doctor, they're going to ask all kinds of questions to make sure that they know that your medical history so that they can make the best diagnosis. When you go to a financial advisor, they're going to ask you all kinds of questions about your current state of your finances and the future goals of your finances in order to make sure that you're best taken care of. They are professionals. If you're not asking questions, simple ones like who's your life insurance through, then you can't call yourself a professional either. Because you don't have the what's best interest for the retiree. You're just making it comfortable for yourself. And I can promise you, it is not fair to our clients for their retirement to be depicted by your fear. Remember that. That's not just for life insurance. That's for everything we do. If you can't get out of your comfort zone and ask someone who's your life insurance through, if you can't get out of your comfort zone and ask someone who, what plan do you have, or do you have the association's plan, this may not be a job for you because it's not fair to the retirement that your fear is limiting their retirement. Not fair to the client for that. Good news for you, continuing the sidebar, we have personal benefit review sheets that all of you should have and all of you should be accessing, right? That has it all laid out for you. And all you have to do is, hey, Mrs. Jones, real quick, I've got to ask you a few questions just so I have a better understanding of who you are, where you're going, what your goals are, what your current states are. And if you'll use this, even if you're not comfortable, this will get you comfortable so that you can have the same conversations that I have with my clients each and every day. So why do you think so low of yourself if you're not asking? You are a professional. We hired you to be a professional. And we need you to be professional when you're with Mr. and Mrs. Jones to make sure that they're getting taken care of and so are their loved ones. Step number 2 on how to show this in the 2 keys, you have to show them the price. Now, here's the trick, all right? This is super crazy, but super easy. About 80% of the people that I talk to when I say, who's your life insurance through, or do you have life insurance, are going to say, I already have this taken care of. But I know from the statistics a little bit earlier today that 30% of the people think that they're going to look for life insurance this year, and 60% or 70% know that their life insurance is more expensive than they think it is, or it's not as expensive as they think it is, all that kind of great stuff, right? And so no matter what Mrs. Jones tells me, I've got more life insurance than I need, Wes. I got more life insurance than I could ever use. My beneficiaries, they're going to be taken care of. No matter what they tell me, when I put down the A and B page, I always put down life insurance plan A with X amount for X amount of dollars, and plan B for X amount of dollars, because I'm telling you, no matter if they wanted it or they didn't want it, they buy because of the price. And when you hear Mrs. Jones say, I don't need this, I don't want this, I've gotten this taken care of, when you put it on the page every single time, even if you don't tell them how it works, they're going to buy it because they go, I didn't know it was as cheap as this was. How much is $25,000 coverage? How much is $30,000 coverage? 80, 90% of the life insurance that I have sold in my life was from someone that told me no. I nonchalantly put it on the page. They saw how cheap the price was and they bought it. The reason we don't sell life insurance here at AMBA is because we don't put it on the page and give the retiree their own opportunity to buy it themselves. Just show them the price. No matter what they say, put it on the page, show them the price, and you will pick up at least one life insurance sale every single week without having to do any of the work, even when they say they're not interested. And that's the absolute truth behind the entire thing. So with that said, that's the formal presentation I have for you today. But now I want to open it all of you all to go, what is it that you're thinking? What is it that you're fearing? What questions do you have about life insurance? We'll start there, and then we'll kind of grab and move on to whatever else pops up. So turn it over to the crowd for 7.5 seconds of awkwardness until someone speaks up. Any questions? Nathan, fire away, man.
All right, so I have somebody that I'm going to be meeting with tomorrow, actually, that has like $500,000 in term, and I was looking to go into like basically have them move into an IUL. I just think it'll fit them better for what they're looking for. How would you transition that conversation of like, because he's spending like $450 a month already on a term policy, where he could spend that same $450 and actually go into an IUL? Like, could you just kind of walk how you go through that conversation?
Yeah, happy to. And the first thing I will tell you, don't make that IUL more complicated than it has to be, right? What type of life insurance do they have? $500,000. Is it term, I'm guessing?
Yeah, 10-year term.
Yep, 10-year term. So the competition is, Mrs. Jones, are you going to pass away in the next 10 years or not? Right? And so what's the age of the client? Do you know?
He's 67 and his wife's 60.
Gotcha. So they're still relatively young. And, they're looking at a scenario that they will have no life insurance when they pass away. Kind of like looking at that mortality rate about how much longer they have to live. I think both of them on that mortality chart says they're going to outlive their term life insurance. And so they're paying into something that statistically they're probably not going to be able to use. So let's talk about how we can frame that up to take the money that statistically they may not use into putting it something into that they will actually use.
100%.
Yeah. And so I know that we've got some folks on here, let's talk about MJ or Kel, or let's talk about Larry that have sold some IULs. What's the best advice that you can give, Nathan?
I think the biggest thing is understanding, what is it that they want, because that term is going to expire, as you said. That term also, when it does expire, is going to have a huge price in order for them to add more coverage on. And so now is that better time to get them into that IUL. They might want a whole life as well, but my guess would be probably at that age, probably still an IUL. But have the conversation and find out what is it that they want that life insurance to do. Maybe there's still college education that's being paid for maybe grandchildren at this point, or saving up for that college education. Find out what it is that they want that life insurance for.
A little more context also. Sorry, real quick. They're building a house right now. Like they're building a brand new house that they're building, like their forever home. And that was like his big thing was like, are we planning to pay it off in the next 10 years? And I was like, that's great. Obviously that's not normal mortgage there, but like, that's kind of his goals. Like if something happens, I want to be able to make sure that that's taken care of.
Absolutely. And that's huge, because if something happens to one of them, now how are they financially being able to cover that mortgage for that home? So
but Nathan, go ahead, and I'll say what I'm going to say. Whoever was speaking up.
And if they're getting this, it's to protect that burden for the other that has that mortgage. So what if they die? But with a term, it's really, what if you live? All that money that you've paid into it's gone. But with a UL, at least it's building cash value. I am very skeptical. I'm very hesitant to do ULs for anyone over 50, just because I've seen them collapse on each other around year 16, or collapse on themselves, I meant to say, when the cash value runs out because they're not paying enough premium. So I'm hesitant, but whatever works. But what if they live?
Yeah.
Jenny, I would encourage you to work with your FML on this as well. But if you look at the life insurance for the IUL, it's 20 years. And again, I don't want to get the express confused, but look at that, because it's 20 years or up to age 80, whichever comes first. Yeah. And obviously the other ones have a little bit different, but look at that, and the rate is going to be the same. So unless they're not paying into it, which they should be, there shouldn't be that issue of it collapsing. Make sense?
Nathan,
yeah, I want my seniors to not have a policy that's going to expire before them. So if they live to 82,
the policy doesn't expire, just so you know. Yeah.
It's as long as they pay the additional premium of like 500.
We should do another training on the IUL, because there's more to it, and that policy does not expire on them. They can actually use the gains from that policy to help offset payments and things like that. But there is, I want to say it's on page 10 of an IUL. It'll show you how that program works.
And I think you are right on 10, page 10. And we definitely have some IUL training coming up. So just look for that on the sheet, or not on the sheet on your calendar. We'll go from there. And then Nathan, the last thing I'll say is, like I said, keep it simple, man. Where I see most people mess up on an IUL. They're bringing in 42 different examples of 52 things that may happen. And next thing you know, the retiree goes, this term life insurance is a heck of a lot simpler. So I better just stay where I am. So just know that as well. All right. I see a hand raised from Claire. Claire, what you got?
Hi, I'm brand spanking new. But to keep it simple, where in the conversation do you bring up life insurance?
Oh, that's an easy question. Pull out your presentation from FSU class. FSU will have you walk through it. Go at the very beginning of your presentation. Use the fact finder. I don't think we call it a fact finder anymore. It is a personal information form. I believe I got that right. Maybe a little bit wrong. Use that. It'll guide you through the conversation. Your presentation should be exactly the same each and every time. Use the one that we pull out of FSU. Go through it, and then you're going to talk about your long-term care, your short-term care needs. If you're in a med sup state, you'll probably lead with some type of med sup, something like that. And then you're going to walk through the products in the form of what your fact-finding tool tells you. So life insurance is super, super easy. You pass away, Mrs. Jones, your beneficiary is going to get X. So I always put it at the very end of my presentations when I'm going through it, just because they don't need a lot of coaching on it. So put it at the end of your portion of your benefits, or the portion of the program where you're going over the benefits, because it's the easiest benefit for all of them to understand, and they already know how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And let me give a plug for a presentation, okay? My daughter's 11. She's learning the scientific method. If you know the scientific method, it's doing the same thing each and every time, and then you change your variable in hopes of getting a different outcome. When I do field training with so many of our representatives, by the time I've watched 10 presentations, I've seen 10 different presentations, and I go, there's no way they're ever going to close this thing, because every time we go into a house, it's like something completely different. You should be doing basically the same skeleton of the presentation each and every time, so that you can get comfortable on it. And then you want to change a variable every time, and that variable that you're changing in that presentation is going to be the rebuttal that you give, not a completely different presentation. So if you don't know your presentation, I'm still using the same one I had 21 years ago, and it still works. So keep plugged into it. All right, what other questions do we have?
I got one.
There we go. Almost
In the-
7.5 seconds.
In
Go
the
ahead, Robin.
close, in the close, that is a very useful tool.
Yeah.
It's the power of silence.
Yeah.
Give them their price and then shut your mouth. First one who speaks loses. So
let me tell you, Robin, when I was brand spanking new, I did training with every agent that would let me ride along with them. I did it. And there was this lady named Jeannie Sebastian, who was dynamite at closing. She closed more sales in 1 year than I probably closed my entire life. And she'd been at that point in sales for, insurance sales for 30 something years. And I can remember to this day the best close I've ever seen in my life. We sat down at a kitchen table. She said, now, Mrs. Jones, which one of these plans do you like, plan A or plan B? It was awkward silence, like you could hear crickets going on. I'm uncomfortable. Jeannie was cool as a cucumber. Mrs. Jones says, well, I think it's a money issue. Jeannie nailed out the 2-question rebuttal. Still awkward silence. I'm squirming like crazy. And the lady goes, I need to think about it. And Jeannie looked over at her and goes, you probably should. And I tell you what, I need a smoke break. So you think I'm going to go smoke. And Jeannie got up and left the table. And I'm sitting there awkward all by myself. And she goes, hey, kid, come with me. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I walked off. We went out there. She smoked the cigarette. We walked in. And that uncomfortable silence gave Mrs. Jones enough time to kind of figure out what it is that she needed. And, we walked in and she says, can you show me something a little bigger, a little smaller? I can't remember. But I tell you what, I almost started smoking that day. It worked so well. I needed something. But I have learned, and if you haven't learned, sometimes Mrs. Jones does need a little bit of awkward silence to figure things out. If you don't smoke cigarettes, and I encourage you not to, right? If you do, get a life insurance policy. But if you don't, I can't tell you how many times I've learned for Jeannie, and I go, hey, that's okay, Mrs. Jones. I need to call my next appointment real quick and let them know how things are going. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to mute you real quick. Think about it. I'll be right back. You know, I'm going to step out real quick and call my next client and let them know that I'm about to be on my way. And so the pause is a big part of what we do. But when it comes to life insurance, it's just asking questions. Go ahead, Robin.
Yep. Some of my biggest policies have come from very awkward silences. And I would always pull out, we had required forms. I'd say, which one of these work best for you? Shut my mouth and start writing out the information. I start writing the policy. By the time I get to the part that they need to choose which option, they've had enough silence to be able to make their decision.
And I'm glad you said, because that reminds me of one thing. I just started writing out the policies, what you just said. And that is an important key. If you're new on this call, if you're someone that's brand spanking new, you need to understand the history of our sales presentation, the history of our sales tactics. When we worked with a retired school employee, or if you worked with a retired state employee in the state that you worked with, they taught in that school, they taught in that state, or worked in that state for 25, 30 years. In every single year, the school board superintendent, the principal, the HR rep stood up on stage during the in-service day, whether they were at the state employee's office or whether they're in the teacher's office, right? And said, hey guys, this year, your health insurance is through Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever it was. And if you're married, we need you to get in this line. And if you're single, we need you to get in this line. All right, everybody break. And everybody went amongst their way. And so when they got in the lines for their respected health insurance plan, they waited, they got to the front. In front of it was a benefit representative from the health insurance. And they said, Mrs. Jones, how would you like your name on your plan? Mrs. Jones, how would you like your beneficiary? Now, Mrs. Jones, there's two plans here. One's an HMO, one's a PPO. Which one of these would you like? And they just filled it out. And Mrs. Jones didn't think about it. That's how they bought insurance. And so that's how we sell insurance here in AMBA, because the teachers and the state employees have bought it one specific way for 35 years. So why should we make them very uncomfortable by doing it the way that they haven't bought it forever? And so, Robin, I love to hear that you're filling out an application. I love to hear that you're taking notes and putting things in there, because that's what your clients expect you to do, because they've seen it that way for 35 years. If we go in there and we're awkward, if we're going there and we're not following a scripted presentation, if we go in there and we're all over the place, if we're going all in there and we're asking and we're begging and we're hoping and we're pleading, they go, this doesn't seem legit because I did it for 35 ways in the school system one specific way, and this ain't it. This smells like an insurance agent. This smells like a commissioned insurance agent, even worse. This tells me I need to think about it, because even though she says it's recommended by my association, this isn't how they did it, right? And so let's make sure that we're leaning on what they are familiar with and be a true advisor as opposed to just some sales agent. Don't look like the Aflac guy that knocks on their door all the time. Don't look like the Colonial agent that showed up, and harassed them while they were in the classroom. Look like the benefit advisor that helped enroll them during their in-service day in August every year. Love it. We got 5 minutes left. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or anything else that we can deal with, even if it's not about life insurance? Anything else? Easy peasy. Did we learn anything today? Did I waste your hour?
I have one question. I
Yeah,
have a
fire
lot
away.
of people that have prepaid funerals.
Mhm.
Do you, I usually just say, oh, okay. I don't even know how to handle that.
Yep. So look at those prepaid funerals. One, ask them for the policy on it. A lot of those prepaid funerals, I hate to say this, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them are very slimy in what they pay out, what they don't pay out, how they pay out, what services that you have to use, all this kind of great stuff. I've also seen prepaid funeral places from funeral places that no longer are funeral places, and the new funeral doesn't honor them. It seems like that's some slimy trick they use, is to change the LLC quite often so that they don't have to honor old ones when the owner of the funeral home gets older and sells their business to the next person or passes it down to a grandkid, that type of stuff. So not to say that all prepaid are slimy, but there's a good portion of them that are slimy out there. Most of them do have some very limited restrictions that are spelled out in the schedule of benefits. All prepaid, just like all insurance, if you grab a copy of the policy on page 2 or page 3, they have a schedule of benefits, and they'll walk you through, and they mostly say something like, we will pay, for a casket up to $1,000, or, if it depends on how old that policy is, it's going to be a little bit of money. And today the cost of things are much more. So very rarely you're going to run across a prepaid that says, if you pass away and you come in here, your family comes in here, you can have a carte blanche of anything you want for this funeral. It's going to have limitations on it. And the limitations are going to be set back to 1980 prices or 75 prices when they took that plan out. So get your hands on the schedule of benefits and look at it. And I think somebody raised their hand. Was it MJ?
Yes. So I will say this, depending upon when that plan was also written, there's things that are, I'll say, somewhat hidden. So what I mean by that is my uncle thought that he had everything prepaid and planned out, and he passed away literally in my training week that I started here. Or excuse me, that was my aunt. He passed away 2 years later. But what happened is when we were going through and doing everything, the opening of the casket was not included. The closing of the casket was not included. The opening of the crypt, the closing of the crypt. So there's different things that are probably not on that plan that still having some other type of plan in place would make sense to make sure that they're protected and covered.
I'll also say a lot of them, especially if they're older policies, have very little to no coverage for some cremation stuff, just because cremation wasn't nearly as popular. And in some cases, it was looked down upon in some religious sects 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so you want to look at that too, if that's something that they wish as well. And Robin, I saw you raise your hand, so fire away again.
Another thing on those prepaid funerals, you need to find the sheet that says guaranteed values and non-guaranteed values, because the guaranteed values are the prices that they're locked into. But all of the other things that are outside of that one section is not guaranteed. It's almost guaranteed that the price is going to increase. I've had people where I've called the funeral, I went to the funeral home with the funeral director and was like, explain to me these guaranteed values and what are these non-guaranteed values. And I ended up going back and writing her an additional $5,000 policy because that's what the funeral director recommended.
And that's a great point, Robin. You're nailing a lot of great points here. When they have something prepaid funeral, or they have something life insurance, or they have something, that also means they saw a need at some point. And so doesn't mean that you need to cancel the plan they had. Like Robin said, it may be something that goes, you did a great job taking this out in 1975. I would never touch it because you're never going to beat the rates. But I will tell you, with inflation and the cost of everything has gone up, it wouldn't hurt you to add an extra $10,000 for, it doesn't matter if it's a cancer policy. It doesn't matter if it's a short-term care policy, long-term care, or a life insurance policy. A lot of them did great job. My mom took a long-term care plan out that had great benefits 20 years ago, but it's limited today. So I helped her with a short-term care to put with it. Same thing with that. So some of these funeral policies, it may have been a great deal back in 1970. Is it still a great deal, and how can we help them? The main thing I hope that you get across from today is ask questions, and don't be scared to go, hey, I'll give you a little time, go grab your policy. You are a benefit advisor. You are a very important part of their retirement plan. You're a very important part of their life. You've got to start acting like it. Because if you don't start acting like a benefit advisor, they're going to keep treating you like a salesperson. And the way that you become a benefit advisor versus a salesperson is just to ask them questions that show them that you care. That's it. That's the difference. You care. And you care enough about them to ask them the questions to make sure the people that they love the most around them is going to be taken care of. And so with that being said, 5 o'clock on the dot, as promised. And so it's going to be a great week. Finish this one strong. If you haven't made